Hi guys, Itay here. As my day job, I'm an Embraer 175 pilot, but I'm also a streamer and a flight simmer. And I thought, just as I was growing up and I was using the wealth of information within the flight sim community and on YouTube, I thought I'd show you guys a little bit of information of the lesser known things in the Embraer that I can share potentially from my real world experience, because there's a little bit less information on that airplane than on others like Airbus and Boeing. So one of the things that I saw a lot of people struggle with is the correct setup of the MCDU, or as we fondly call it, the MCDU, in the Embraer. So we will jump in, and we are in X-Plane 12. We are in X-Plane 12, the X-Craft, and today is June 1st, 2023. So we're using whatever version exists at the moment. So it's not perfect by any means, but I did think I will just show you the functionality that there is. And this, as you can see from the fancy screen here, mainly that's the first thing that pops out. This is what's called a load 27. What's a load 27? It's basically the software and hardware version of this airplane, what's installed right now. If you've seen, I have a whole playlist of how to operate the basically the entire normal procedures, not just the MCDU procedures. The MCDU procedures are within the normal procedures, but they are in Prepare 3D and in the Field Air add-on, which in my opinion gives a very nice simulation of the systems and the MCDU. But it is an older version of the sim, and also it's an older version of the airplane. It's a load 25. So now in the new, first of all, in real world, we're seeing more and more load 27s, as well as the latest simulators to this date. So in X-Plane 12, we have, in this instance, X-Craft, Embraer family, and in the sibling Microsoft Flight Simulator, we have Flight Sim Studio. So we're both of these new add-ons, X-Craft and Flight Sim Studios, use load 27. So that looks a little bit different, not just on the PFD, but primarily also on the MCDU. So I thought I'll show you guys the normal stuff, how to set it up. So that's the end of the intro. Now let's get to business. So we are in Miami right now, just for context, and we are an Envoy flight 3507 going from Miami to Nashville, and we also have an alternate, I believe, which is Atlanta. Okay, so we're gonna use this OFP that I made, this flight release that I made, and this will be our baseline to what to put in. So first things first, when I get into the airplane for the first time, forget the flight plan still. We're first of all go to the CB page. It's not modeled, but we will see basically if there's any remote circuit breakers that have popped, so we can check them out here and deal with them accordingly. Then we want to go to the nav. It will take us to the nav ident. We want to make sure that we are dealing with the current database. So as you can see, now the date is June 1st, 2023, and the active database, navigation database, is up until May 18th. So I forgot to update it. Basically, that's on me. So this is already a maintenance item. Sometimes we have a standby database. In real life, we typically would have it. Sometimes it just takes to switch it, but basically this is a maintenance call. So let's pretend it is okay. We're also verifying the time in UTC, 12:25, and that's what we are checking in here. And in the load 25, at this point, we would go to align the IRS page, but pause init to align the IRS. In load 27 it does so automatically, and therefore the prompt here takes us to the route page. So from the route page we will start inputting. So obviously the destination. We do have an alternate Atlanta. I don't believe we are able to put it in to the Xcraft, but there should be another line here for the alternate, so we would obviously put KATL and insert it into the appropriate one. Since it's not modeled, I won't put it in. Another thing we can do is put the flight number, and that's important to do it accurately, letter by letter and number by number. 3507 ENY 3507, and I cross-check it with the OFP and I put it in here. The reason it's so critical, this would interface with a lot of other systems like the data link system, the ACARS. It goes by the actual flight ID that I inputted here, and also it interfaces with the ADSB ADSB out that is mandatory in the US now. Okay, at this stage we are also going to put that's weird that it doesn't let me, but basically we will delete this discontinuity. Maybe it'll let me. Yep. So we're basically making it direct to Nashville, direct destination. If we could implement the alternate, we would also do the same for the alternate in the next page, and we're activating it as it is. I know we haven't completed it, but this is what we're doing at this stage, because at this stage we're continuing to do the rest of the flows with the airplane, the overhead, the maintenance check, all that stuff. But in the meantime, the MCDU can be set to start connecting with the ACARS. So we need the flight number and the route to be initialized, and then we can continue on with the rest of the flows. That's pretty much the only thing we're doing at the very, very beginning. So we had the CBs, we had the nav ident, and we have the route origin, destination, alternate, make sure it's going direct, and the flight ID. At this point, we can do the rest of the stuff in the rest of the airplane, I mean. And now, once we're circled back, so basically we prepare all the overhead stuff, all the we do some briefings, maybe check with the flight attendants, all that stuff. But when we get back to actually do the work, typically at this point we will also get our clearance using the ACARS, PDC, or even CPDLC. At this point we can actually start working on the rest of the stuff. So let's actually go ahead and input the route in. So from Miami, this is the route I'm going to reference. Okay, so first things first, let's go to nav, departure. So we can see nothing is active right now. We're going to manipulate the selected. So runway 08 left. We are talking about Hurricane 3 departure, going to Cape Asa. And as you can see, it is pre-selected here, and we're going to apply it. So now we can see that we have Hurricane 3 to Cape Asa, to Cape Asa. And then this would be the route to waypoint, route, waypoint, route, waypoint. So from Cape Asa, we're looking at the Q118 to THRSR, Thrasher, I think. And as you can see, again, the cyan, the blue, is our modification versus what was already in the system, which is green. Okay, so basically comparing the blue versus green. So we're looking at Wesson, and that is direct from Thrasher direct to Wesson. So I'm not going to input a route, I'm just going to put it here. And you can see direct to Wesson. Same logic, so Jaguar. And from Jaguar, it's going to be the Swift to arrival. So we're going to go to nav, arrival, Swift to, from Jaguar. And notice we did not input the runway or the approach. But that's perfectly fine. Oh, come on. It won't let me. Let's try to activate what I have already. Oh, it did. Okay. So as we see, Hurricane 3 to Cape Pasa, Q118 to Thrasher, Wesson, direct Jagger, and then the Jagger Swift 2, and we can activate that. So that's for the active route. In the real airplane, we would have the next page to do the alternate. We're not inputting the route for the alternate, but we could if we wanted to. But basically, we have it here if we want. But in real life, we would not. And then we would have a prompt here that would take us to perf init. So that's what we want. Perf init. We have a few things here. Oh, sorry, we need the fuel page basically. So, yeah, we want to verify the tail is correct and all that stuff. And now fuel reserve, we put, it says 30 minutes. It has the option to go by minutes or by fuel calculations. We already have the fuel calculations. So our fuel reserve is the final reserve. So in our case, 2083. 2083. It doesn't let me. Okay, in real life, obviously it does. Takeoff and land fuel, that's where a lot of people make a mistake, okay? It's not the actual fuel on takeoff and the actual fuel on landing. It is the taxi before takeoff and taxi after landing. So taxi before takeoff, we can take it right from here. Extra 500, excuse me, taxi fuel, 360. So it is 360. As for taxi after landing, it is, in my company, is standard 200. So just put it as this. Alternate fuel, exactly as it's read from here. We have the alternate fuel to Atlanta, 2182. Like so. It doesn't let me. Okay. But that's the perf init page 1. Now we're going to go to the next page. Next page, cruising altitude. It is going to be flight level 320. So this will go here. Cruise winds, we're going with the average, 230 at 12. Yep. And then ISA deviation, that's in cruise, so we are average ISA plus 8. So it's already plus 8. Cool. Zero fuel weight and takeoff CG, we're going to leave for now. We're not going to touch it for the time being. Okay, and we're going to go to the next page, and here we have the climb, cruise, and descent speeds. Are we planned for this? Let's see. I don't know if we can set it up. Okay, that's promising. We're not doing econ in my company. We don't have that implemented. Well, we could, but not in this way. And then the cruise profile is cost index 16. We have in my company, we have a separate data link function to request what would be the speed for a cost index 16. And then it comes back, and then we fill it up, and that's during flight. In the pre-flight stage, we would go to the flight log here, and we would go to the top of climb, and we would check what would be the Mach number planned, so we can actually set that up. It is very typical to climb on 270 after 10,000, and then there's no reason to accelerate all the way to Mach 0.74, so we can go to 0.70. At this stage, very typical, something like 280 and 0.70. Just remember that it goes with the lowest of the two. So 280 with 0.70. So as long as we're high enough so that Mach 0.70 is below 280, we would maintain the Mach. If we're descending and leveling off again, it would go momentarily to descent speed, but then as it levels off, it would go back to cruise speed, and then we have 280 at Mach 0.7. So that's for now. At this stage, I do want to go to prog page and check the total distance of the route that we implemented. So ground distance 751, ground distance here is 610, that's correct. At this stage, if we have something to set up for the nav radio, we can do that here. Similarly, it's a good time to check, I won't do it now, but it's a good time to check all the waypoints on the departure to make sure they match exactly the waypoints and the, that's interesting, the track between waypoints and the distances between waypoints and the altitude restrictions for primarily the SID, but also we want to make sure that on the flight plan page nothing is set up wrong or anything like that. So that's basically what we do at this stage. We can also set up the nav fix info, like the rings around waypoints to symbolize what we want to do. So that's what we do at this stage. Then we continue to do our briefings and all that stuff. And what's still missing is the performance finalization with the performance numbers that come back. The reason we didn't do that yet is because it's going to be not finalized until we know exactly how much cargo and how many passengers and stuff like that are in there. I can show you how I program it in. Yeah, I didn't put the fuel. I guess I can just put the fuel in. Let's do it real quick. Yeah, I'll close this real quick, and I do want to input the weight and balance, view load sheet, and load plane. So we have 12.9 or 13,000. Yep, that's what we have. Fantastic. So as for the zero fuel weight, we're talking about, let's pop it here. So let's say we are ready to close the doors. The gate agent said, okay, we have the final numbers, or in my company, it comes through in the ACARs already. So then we get the numbers and we just put them in. So zero fuel weight, we get it rounded up. So let's round up. So 64,200 into the zero fuel weight. And then the takeoff CG, we're taking this value here, 19.0, and put it here. At this point, we would go next, and we would use that prompt here, takeoff dataset. Takeoff dataset, I did a whole video of how to set up what's everything, but let's just go with something that is typical. So ECS on, anti-ice off, temperature, let's say it's 24, and flexing, I guess, I don't know if we can flex. No, it doesn't let us flex. Okay, so no flex. Now we just go with the prompt. So FMS takeoff. Flaps 2, we verify that it is going to be flaps 2. That's the, actually, no, wait, we can do it here. What am I saying? Takeoff 1, flaps 2 is the standard for us. Dry runway, let's use no wind. And temperature 24, and QNH, whatever it is. I don't know. I haven't checked, honestly. So yeah, we would verify. Hold on. Okay. We would verify flaps 2 and go to the takeoff page. Now we have 136, 140, 143, 197. Okay, at this point, very important is to press toga. So I'm going to, you can see that the FMA is right now vacant. And there's nothing in it, and it is pointing my direction because I'm going to be the pilot flying with this one. I'm going to press toga. And we have roll takeoff, and LNAV and VNAV armed. That's perfectly fine. In my company, we deselect NAV and VNAV as a procedure, but you can totally leave it here. It's completely valid. It would work just fine. So when later on we have the pitch trim as well, but that's not part of the setup here. So there you have it. At this point, the MCDU is fully set up for the departure. We can go from here. Just note that I didn't incorporate any procedures from any other system, any other buttons, any switches, just how you would set it up, correlated with the proper phase of flight. So just to sum it up, we got 3 different stages. First stage, circuit breaker panel, circuit breaker page, nav ident, and then we would go to route and input just initialize origin, destination, flight ID, and connect it also in page 2 and 3 if we have an alternate. That's the stage 1, so we can log into ACARS and all that pretty stuff. Stage 2 is during the before start procedure. We would input all the routes, all the perf init. We would check the progress page to make sure the number here makes sense. We would set the nav radio. We would check the fix info. We would check the flight plan for all the waypoints and altitude restrictions and speed restrictions, and for each waypoint, the track and the distance. Okay, and so that's for that. And then the next stage is when we put perf init page 2. We got the 0 fuel weight, takeoff CG, go here, takeoff dataset, then takeoff init, and finally the takeoff page. FMS takeoff and takeoff page, and that's when it's done. In my company, we then go to flight plan page for a later checklist. That's all I have. I hope it was helpful. Let me know what you think in the comment. Let me know if you're already a pilot and your company does things differently, or if you have your insight, even if you just fly in the sim, but you have insight on the simulator and your experience in it. And more importantly, if you have any other systems or topics you want me to cover in general, but particularly on this airplane. Thanks for tuning in, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next flights. Watch out for the phone call from crew scheduling. Bye bye.